He's conducted more than 5,000 interviews, including every major sports personality, icon, artist, and legend. As host of ESPN's Up Close and HDNet's Face to Face, he's a 7-time Emmy Award-winning broadcaster. Sports Illustrated called the best interviewer in the business. But he's so much more than that. An author of 2 books, a brand new record album, and a featured role in the motion picture Jerry Maguire.
Your father leaves home on Christmas Eve, leaves your family all alone. And a mother had to sweep out the steps of the prison just to earn enough money for tuition for you. Your brother loses a leg in a tragic bass fishing accident. I mean, there's been a horrific list of things that have happened to you in your life.
I'm not gonna cry, Roy.
Well, actually, we have some very good news for you. This has just been handed to me. A memo is signed. It's a contract guaranteed. Arizona Cardinals, 4 years, $11.2 million. You're going to get to play in Arizona where it all started, finish up your career in Arizona. What do you think of that? Congratulations. We'll be right back.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Roy Firestone.
Hey, how we doing, Warren? All right, y'all ready to get happy? Here we go. It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Come on, Rick, put your hands together. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. Woo! I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air of care, baby, by the way. Woo! Because I belong with if you find that the happiness is the truth. I belong if you feel that happiness is for you. I belong if you know that's what you want to do. I belong if you feel happiness is for you. Here come bad news, talking this and that. Give me all you got and don't hold back. Woo! I should probably warn you, I will be just fine. Whoa! No offense to you, waste your time. Yeah, because I'm lonely if you feel that happiness is the truth. I'm lonely if you feel that happiness is for you. I'm lonely if you know that that's what you want to do. I'm lonely if you feel you gotta raise the roof. Come on, baby, everybody. Come on, baby. Don't break me down, 'cause I'm rising up. Don't break me down, 'cause I'm rising up. Happy, happy, happy. Clap along if you feel that happiness is the truth. Clap along if you feel that that's what you want to do. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel that that's what you want to do. Oh, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, good evening. How we doing, Warren, Ohio?
You know, people always say to me, and I got it again tonight, who are some of your most favorite interviews? And I'm going to give you a quick turn of some of my favorites. And let's start, and you can applaud here. Let's start with the late, great Wilt Chamberlain. Give it up for Wilt while we have a chance. There he is. I had never met Wilt Chamberlain, this is a true story, before the year 1979. I come out of a restaurant in Santa Monica, California. This is true. There is a $300,000 white Rolls-Royce convertible in the front of the restaurant. In the back seat, I am not making this up, are 2 Great Dane Dalmatian dogs in the back seat, as big as horses. In the front seat is a beautiful blonde, I mean packed into a leather dress. Because, let's face it, Wilt Chamberlain, he felt he was the NBA's all-time leading scorer. And I walk up to the driver's side of the car, I kid you not, and there is Wilt Chamberlain. I had never met him before. He's 7'2", he's 355 pounds. He is wearing a silver and purple silk jumpsuit with a burgundy beret. He's got fluorescent scars, a tooled African belt, an African walking stick, and leather pants with wraparound tangerine sunglasses and a cigarette holder. Now, this is true. I walk up to Wilt Chamberlain. I say, Wilt, I can't believe I'm meeting you for the first time. I would love you if you could come do my show. He said, Roy, I would love to do your show, but right now I'm trying to keep a low profile. So. Then we had Tommy Lasorda on our show. Give it up for 90-year-old Tommy Lasorda. He was trying to say that when he was managing the Dodgers, there was a pitcher named Bert Hooton who got so worked up before the game they had to feed him fluids in his arm intravenously. Now, Tommy did not know the word intravenous. By the way, one of many words Tommy didn't know. I said, Tommy, tell me about your pitcher. I swear to you, he says, Roy, this young man has got a lot of courage and a lot of guts because he gets very dehydrated before every ball game. And they have to feed him fluids in his arm with one of those IUDs stuck in his arm. So there was a pregnant pause there, as you might imagine. Then we had Shaquille O'Neal. Give it up for Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal. Look at this picture. I interviewed Shaq one time. The Lakers lost the world championship. Have lost it. Not won it, lost it. And ESPN wanted me to go out, interview him, and get his emotional state after being defeated. They always do that stupid thing. I don't know why they do that. So it's 2 o'clock in the morning at the Palace of Auburn Hills in Detroit. And I walk up to Shaq and I say, Shaq, I hate to do this, but can you share your emotional state right now? Well, I'm a little pissed off. This was my brilliant follow-up. How pissed off are you? He actually said, to the highest level of passivity. I interviewed Shaq one time after the U.S. Olympic team won the gold medal in Athens, Greece. It was a big moment for him. He cuts off the plane. I said, Shaq, congratulations, first of all. While you were in Athens, did you have a chance to visit the Parthenon? He said, Roy, we went to a lot of clubs. I can't remember all the names. And then there was Kobe. Shaq and Kobe did not get along. We look back at Kobe and Shaq. This is one of their happier moments on courts. I said, Shaq, tell me the difference between your personality and that of Kobe Bryant. He said, Roy, that's easy. First of all, Kobe Bryant is a loner, but me, I'm a socialist. Karl Marx is spinning in his grave as we speak. I wanted to do a story with two teammates who were completely dissimilar culturally. So I went to the Houston Rockets basketball team in the NBA. I don't know if anyone's here been a Houston Rockets fan, or they had a very eclectic team in the 90s. So I started with one guy who was from Lagos, Nigeria. Soft-spoken and humble and graceful, spoke 5 languages, highly educated, deeply religious, very graceful man, Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon. And then I wanted to go with somebody completely different, so I went to Charles Barkley. Okay, so here it is. True story. First question out of the box. I wanted to do offbeat stuff, so I said, gentlemen, Hakeem, Charles, do you believe you're going to heaven? Do you believe you're going to heaven? Olajuwon was very reflective, and he had this beautiful, lilting Nigerian voice. Well, I believe that my service to God is pure and consistent, and it comes from the spirit of giving in the community of all mankind. Yes, 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 yes. I believe humbly I will go to heaven. I said, very nice. He said, Hakeem, how about you, Charles? Are you going to heaven? He said, I don't know, but it's definitely going to be a close vote. We had Shannon Sharp do our show. You all know who Shannon Sharp is? Hall of Fame tight end from the Ravens and the Broncos. Great player, wonderful guy. He's now on Fox Sports, as you may see him here and there. By his own admission, not the greatest student of all time. Went to Savannah State University. I don't know if anyone here went to Savannah State, but there are no Nobel Prize winners going out of there. I said, Shannon, based on your academic career, would you say you graduated to the level of magna cum laude? He said, Roy, the fact that I even graduated is thank you, Lordy. I had a basketball coach, some of you might remember, in the back of the room here somewhere. Abe Lemons did our show. He was a guy from the University of Texas, wonderful guy, but he had a bad temper. And this is a story, the next time somebody in your life really irritates you to the highest level of passivity, you might remember this story. He gets a technical foul called on the basketball court as the coach. He knows that the second technical foul he gets will cost him an ejection from the game. So he knows whatever he says to the referee, he cannot afford to offend. And you might use this in your walk of life. He says, hey, referee, come over here for a second. He said, listen, ref, I got one technical foul. I can't afford to get a second one, but let me ask it to you this way. Would you give me a second technical foul for something I'm just thinking? Referee says, I can't give you a technical foul for something you're thinking. He goes, good, I'm thinking you're son of a bitch. I'll tell you right now. This is how it works. Remember the most eccentric interview I ever did? I certainly remember it. Was this guy right here. Remember the first time you heard Mike Tyson speak on television? And you said there was something wrong with the audio on my TV, you know? It was after a fight, I'll never forget it. It was one of the, a left, and a right, and another left, and another right, and it's all over! There's a new heavyweight champion of the world, Iron Mike Tyson!
Oh my God, I feel powerful. I feel extraordinary. I have the perspicacity of fighting him. I don't know what to say. I hit him with a left hand or right. He went down like a sack of potatoes.
I did a show one time with Mike Tyson and Michael Spinks. I don't know if you remember what happened with this one. And I have Michael Spinks coming on my show. And I said, Michael Spinks, it's 1 week away from the Tyson fight. Let me ask you this way, are you concerned at all about your weigh-in? He said, no man, I'm concerned about the way out. So I knew. We get to the fight. It's in Atlantic City, and I'll never forget it. Before the opening bell, they have the two fighters staring at each other. You know, they always do that intimidation thing, right? I swear, I'm so close to ringside, I can hear what he's saying. Mike Tyson looks into Spinks' eyes, and he goes,
Tonight, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you.
and his opponent looked back at him and said, I know. And he did. As a matter of fact, the fight starts, and it wasn't very long. This was the fight. He knocked Spinks out in 90 seconds. I could last 90 seconds. And the most amazing thing happened, I swear to you this is a true story. I go to the press room. I'm running to get to the press room to get my seat because the fight is over. And this, I swear this is true. As I'm running, I hear a commotion behind me. I turn around, may God strike me dead. It's Mike Tyson and 3 of his handlers right behind me. Not 50 seconds after the fight. He's not even broken a sweat. I look at him and he looks at me and he goes, oh my God, it's Roy Firestone. How you doing? What's going on? Like I was at a freaking mall, you know? He goes, I said, Mike, congratulations. Oh, don't worry about the fight. I'll ask you a question. I saw the show 2 weeks ago with your father. He was very good. He knew a lot about boxing. Would you do me a favor and tell him that I thought he was very, very astute and he had a lot of good insights into the sport and I really liked him very, very much.
much and give him my very best.
Now, my father hated Mike Tyson's guts. But this is not the end of the story. In those days, I went to a payphone. There was no cell phone. I call him up, wake him up out of bed. He's half asleep. Hello? Dad, you're not going to believe what I'm going to tell you. I'm at the Tyson Spinks fight. Oh, that son of a... Dad, listen. Let me tell you what happened. I'm running to the press room, and Mike Tyson himself pulls me aside right behind me, and he says he saw your show, he thought you were fabulous, he thought you had a lot of great insights, and he wanted me to give you his best. Long pause. My father goes, well, you know, I'll tell you one thing about this guy. He's quite a warrior and one of the greatest champions we've ever known. You give my father a compliment, that's all he needed. Still the greatest athlete, greatest boxer, greatest athlete I've ever been around, and we'll talk more about him later, is this guy right here. Give it up for the great champ. Come on. And the greatest broadcaster in our generation was who? Howard Cosell. Do you know how many people these days, young people, don't know who this guy is? Today, I had somebody say I'd never heard of the guy. Howard Cosell. I tried to explain to this kid that Muhammad Ali and Howard Cosell were like a tandem. They were like a hip-hop group, really, they really were. In fact, if you put them together today, they'd have their own hip-hop record. It would sound like this.
Hello, everybody. I'm Howard Cosell. Without further ado, there's the opening pack. We're here today to view and observe a three-time champ with a hell of a nerve. He fought all comers with speed and savvy, though in later years he got kind of flabby. Ladies and gentlemen, Muhammad Ali.
Howard Cosell, I hear what you say. You're full of hot air, you got a bad toupee. I fought with style and I fought with class. You ain't nothing but a pain in my ass. There it is, Howard Cosell. Golf is a four-letter word in more ways than one. This is a song dedicated to everything. I mean, everything that can go wrong on a golf course. Watch.
I've got golf under my skin. I've got golf deep, deep in the heart of me. So deep in my heart that it's really not smart of me. 'Cause I've got golf, said I've got golf under my skin. Woo! Now I've tried so hard to play, but I never can win. I said to myself in this game, it ain't gonna go so well. But why should I try to quit when baby I know so very well that I've got golf, said I've got golf under my skin. Whoa, look out, oh! I would sacrifice everything on one fight for the sake of hitting that putt. But it's always the same. We're playing the game. Golf's a royal pain in my butt. I just know I'm some kind of fool. I don't know where to begin. I'll use my mentality and I'll lose most of my salary. But every time I do, from out of the blue makes me stop before I begin. 'Cause I've got golf, I said I've got golf under my skin.
Now watch these guys. This is what you call a bad driver, and I don't mean in the club case. Look at this guy trying to pull wheelies. Look at that, unbelievable. There we go. You guys take it from here.
This one's a real long shot right here. sacrifice anything come what might to avoid some stupid mistake. But the game's the same. I feel so lame. I feel like my body can break. Don't you know, you little fool? You know you can never win. Use your mentality. Step up and don't lose your salary. Oh, every time I do, from the fall to the blue, I just stop before I begin. Now watch this lady here. This is kind of rough to look at in the old keister right here. Ow! Right there in the old rough there. And I dig off. This is a real birdie, ladies and gentlemen. Under my skin. There it is. Go up under my skin right there. Thank you. I'm going to show you what I think is the absolute over-the-top self-congratulation. This is a Lithuanian soccer player by the name of Dmitry Hub. He hits a ball with a header into the net. He scores the goal. Okay, that's fine. But watch carefully what he does. It's not enough to take a bow. He goes into the stands and applauds himself. That is what you call cocky. But it is not the only cocky we've ever seen. In fact, we call this premature celebration. Celebrate! Celebrate!
It starts with graduation celebration. Maybe not so. When your kid is celebrating a slam dunk, he can end up in a funk just like this. In horse racing, the object is to win the race, but not to make an ass out of yourself. And yet, sure enough, some do, right there. The goalie in soccer loves to congratulate himself after a great save, but it might be nice to have the save before you congratulate yourself. Look at that. Walk-off home runs are great, but if you don't touch home plate, you are out. This guy didn't. He was out, and they lost the game. In cycling, you can't celebrate before you win. This guy falls completely apart. And the number 2 rider right behind him wins the race easily. Look at this. Here's an inline skater who is so busy congratulating himself that he doesn't see the competition. Look at that. Wow. Hockey goals are great unless there's too much to celebrate, like this guy. Here's an amazing piece of tape, folks. This is real. This soccer coach is high-fiving no one, and he ends up separating his shoulder! This is real. They don't even, I've never seen anything like that. No one touched him. And then in this one, you can celebrate and look like an idiot. Watch that.
Celebrate!
And then this is a fan who thought he had more fans, but it wasn't really that fan, right? And here's another one, another horse race, where the jockey gets up in the irons too soon, and he ends up losing the race. Look at that. That's really embarrassing. But to me, the all-time most egregious is this guy who hits a winning shot, or so it seemed, with 0.6 seconds left in the game. But the game's not over. The coach is saying, hey, get back on defense, get off the court and play defense. But you know what? They're too busy celebrating. He says, get back. This is an example of jubilation turning into humiliation. When you get cocky, it could smack you straight in the face. This is a Sinatra crowd, right? But I thought, what if Sinatra was still around in the 90s and stuff where he wanted to perform for younger crowds like Happy? And I thought, what would it be like if Sinatra wanted to sing a Village People song? It would still sound pretty good. Sinatra doing the Village People.
Young man, I was once in your shoes. I said, old man, I once had the blues. I know there's a place you can go, and it's even wonderful if you're hanging out in the Warren Disco. 2, 3, 4. Why, YMCA. YMCA. You can do anything. It's your personal choice. You might even want to hang out with all those Warren, Ohio boys right here in YMCA. YMCA. Frank Sinatra. I love Sinatra. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the legendary Smokey Robinson. Ladies and gentlemen, Maurice, Robin, and Barry Gibb, the Bee Gees.
Good night, Mr. Sunshine. You brighten. You sit outside my lonely days, lonely nights. How come I sing just like a woman? Lonely days, lonely nights. I sing just like a woman.
The Bee Gees! Hi again, everybody. I'm Casey Gibson, and we're counting down the last 50 years of music on American Top 40. All the music you loved and some you despised. Let's start with the fabulous 50s, back when air was clean and sex was dirty. The year was 1957. Gas was 28 cents a gallon, a time for lovers dancing close, and a good 10 years before everything went into the crapper. Here's Johnny Mathis and Misty.
Look at me, I'm as helpless as a kitten up a tree. Never knowing my left foot from my right, my heart from my love. I get misty and too much in love. Oh, look at me.
Johnny Mathis and Misty. Now it's time for another young crooner from Queens, New York, the legendary Tony Bennett, still singing at 91. I left my heart, hey, that's to see Warren, Ohio, in San Francisco. Hey, good to see you. above the blue. And windy seas, yeah. When I come home to you, Warren, Ohio, I mean San Francisco. The golden sun will shine for me.
Tony Bennett, thanks, Henry. We'll scan up a few more years to the year 1969. Now, big record that year came from a movie called Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Here's B.J. Thomas and Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head.
The raindrops are falling on my head, and just like the guy his feet are too big for his bed, nothing seems to fit. Those raindrops are falling on my head, they keep falling because I'm free. Nothing's worrying me.
B.J. Thomas and Raindrops. Casey's countdown continues to the year of flowered shirts, big hair, and really bad turquoise jewelry. You remember the year. The year was 1975. An album called Silk Degrees, and a singer with the weird name of Boz Scaggs go to the microphone. Do you remember this record? Actually, I don't, but it doesn't matter, because here's Boz Scaggs.
Everybody wanna sing, everybody gotta dance, everybody gotta find a rhythm band. Gotta have a jump for this, gotta have a jump for that. Just keep on the Johnson, buy it, just ain't where it's at. Yeah. I wonder who. I wonder who. Yeah.
That's Boz Scaggs and Lowdown right here. Well, now it's time for the folk era, 1974. And a Canadian folk singer by the name of Gordon Lightfoot was making a hot foot to success. Here's the man who once spent 3 days in a coma with his big hit called Sunburn.
I was sitting in the sun and I started to scream, 'cause I didn't wear black and I didn't wear cream. Sunburn, I didn't take care, had raccoon eyes and my skin was fair. Sunburn, I didn't take care, and it all kind of started on an old chair.
Gordon Lightfoot right there. Well, Casey's countdown continues to the year 1974. We'll never forget this year because it was a great movie by the name of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And we remember this one as the legendary Mr. Entertainment, Sammy Davis Jr. took to the stage.
Hey kids, I'm gonna do this little ditty for you right now. Here we go. Who can make the sun rise? Sprinkle it with dew. Cover it with chocolate and a miracle or two. The Candy Man. Oh, the Candy Man can. The Candy Man can, 'cause he mixes it with love and makes the world taste good.
That's Sammy Davis Jr. and Candyman. Well, you know, we're almost out of time on Casey's Countdown, but we would be remiss if we'd include one of the great singer-songwriters of all time, a man who hails from the Bronx, New York, and a true American singer-songwriter. Ladies and gentlemen, here he is, Mr. Neil Diamond, and Coming to America.
come to America, and they come with a girl and a boy. Oh, come to America, my country, Chesapeake. I'm glad you all work for me on the IC. Today, there it is, Neil Diamond and Casey Kasem's countdown.
We call this story Taking Your Best Shot, because in life, sometimes the best stories come from the littlest places. This is Greek Athenia High School in Rochester, New York. It was the home to a 5'5" team basketball manager named Jason McElwain. This young man is autistic. One of every 50 kids, boys in this country, are autistic. They can be ostracized, fragmented, and feel not part of the team, but not this young man. No, because he felt he mattered to his team. I'll never forget this.
Get him motivated and hand out water and just be enthusiastic. Let's have a hard practice tomorrow. All hour and a half, and let's get ready for Arcadia. Let's go. 1, 2, 3, 2.
The second to last day of the season, his coach, Jim Johnson, gave J-Mac a chance to suit up. They do that sometimes. They're never going to play, but just to suit up. But with the team well ahead and about 3.5 minutes left in the game, look at this. The coach calls Jason to get in the game. Now remember, this kid had never played a minute in high school, not 1 minute. And the crowd was behind him. They even had little J-Mac masks. But the first shot, everyone held their breath, and it was disappointing.
Was it close? Did you almost make it? I just airballed it. I'm like, just, dear God, please, let's just get him a basket.
Next shot, no good, and then people are feeling badly now. But something happened. This young man hit this three-pointer, and it was like everything was released in this kid's soul. It changed his entire outlook.
If I wasn't there to witness it, I wouldn't have believed it, you know? You caught fire. It just caught fire. That was hot as a pistol.
Well, that pistol got hotter. He hits this three-pointer, and then he hits another three-pointer, and then he hit yet another three-pointer. Ladies and gentlemen, this young man in 3.5 minutes scored 20 points. He had 6 three-pointers, including this 35-footer at the buzzer at the end of the game. How do you explain that? As we see both teams, many of these kids had tears in their eyes, racing to that court to embrace this young man. Everyone went crazy that night, and I was in that gym because we realized something very important. It's not about the love of the game. It's about the love in the game. That's the J-Mac story. I want to share something with you tonight, a song that we put some pictures to. Many of the images you see are from this area, from the Ohio area, some also from the Pennsylvania area too, because we know we have some Pittsburgh fans too. But these are the greatest moments of my lifetime that I've seen in sports in, say, the last 25 or 30 years. And it was a song that really moved me by Elton John and Bernie Taupin called Don't Let the Sun Go Down. Don't ever let your dreams go down. So if you see somebody you loved or admired, I'd love to hear you hoot and holler and cheer. These are dedicated to the great memories in Ohio and all over the sports world. Start with this right here. I can't lie, 'cause I love all my yesterday. Give it up for LeBron James. Come on, everybody. And all my pictures, Kirk Gibson, seem to fade to black and white. Michael Jordan, everyone. I'm growing tired, and time stands still before me. The great number 32, Jim Brown. Closing here on the ladder of my life. All
losing everything is like the sun going down on me.
The legendary Bob Feller, give it up. The late great Bob Feller. From Warren, Ohio, Paul Warfield.
I can't find all the right romantic lines.
What a player he was, wow.
But see me once,
Roberto Clemente.
and see the way I feel.
What a horse, what a man. U.S. Olympic team.
Don't get stung.
The U.S. Women's World Cup soccer champs.
All the thing I'm in your heart.
Kenny Lofton.
But the consignment.
Ohio State beats Michigan.
Oh, and they see me through. Don't let the sun go down on me.
Corey Kluber.
Although it's strange for you, it's really your reality. It's just another fragment of your life.
The Buckeyes.
You want it free. But losing everything is like the sun going down on me.
Ali, Michael Phelps.
Don't let the sun go down on me. Although it's strange for you, it's really your reality.
Walter Payton.
It's just another fragment of your life. You want it free.
Rajai Davis.
But losing everything is like the sun going down on me.
He almost got it. He almost got the world championship. Give it up for Rajai Davis. He brought him close.
Sun going down on me.
Don't let the sun go down. Now y'all remember that Billy Joel song from many, many years ago called We Didn't Start the Fire? We're gonna give you 70 years of sports in 3 minutes. Here we go. Put your hands together. Sports lights our fire.
Gene Reno, Cleveland Brown, Sugar Ray and
Churchill Downs, Jackie Robbie, Slam and Sammy, Joe DiMaggio. Weird Skids, Hogan Field, Stan the Man and Waterfield, Indies flag, hot tag bag and Lawson's perfect throw. Bobby Thompson, Warren Spahn, Nash Ward, Forrest Lawn, Marciano, Splendid Dead, Hour back, they call him Red. Whitey Ford, Raymond Berry, Dodgers rookie, Larry Sherry, Willie Pep, Sudden Death, I can hardly catch my breath. Sports really lights the fire, and it's always changing, it's rearranging. Sports fans never tire, and you're on it lying, and you're on it trying. Willie Mays, Woody Hayes, Notre Dame, Steve Benadays, Robert Roberts, Robert Bella, MVP is Campanelle. Blue Jack, Eddie Shack, Senators and 20 back, Bill Beck, Remnant Rack, Willie Schuins, Bayonet, Mazeroski, Johnny Lou, Ernie Banks. Let's play 2, Sonny Liston, Game Bang, Sandy Taylor, Stragger King, Rocket Rod and AJ Point, Knuckleball and Davis Hoyt, Green Bay Packers, Boycott Backers, Cassius Clay is going cracker. Sports really lights the fire, and it's always changing, it's rearranging. Sports fans never tire, and you can't deny it, and you ought to try it. Wilton, Stilton, Russell, rookie Johnny Hustle, Jimmy Brown,
G, Meter Reed, Chrissy Evans, Billie Jean, Andrew, Richard Petty, Haley's always playing heady. Cameron, Hank, Brooks and Frank, UCLA's Tom Wright, Nadia is something new, Billy Martin, Sprague Sue, sports really lights the fire, and it's always changing, it's rearranging, sports fans never tired, and you can't deny it, and you ought to try it. Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, USA wins on the ice. Mary Lou, Iron Mike, baseball lockout, football strike. Al Campanis, Lenny Bias, Michael Jordan flying highest. Bobby's chair, Golden Bear, Bo can play most anywhere. O.J. Simpson's on the news. LAPD's got the juice. Mark McGuire takes a hat. Magic Johnson, Kobe Shaq, Tony Gwynn and Rip. Brady's great and gotta win. Brady's always had the goods, but best of all is Tiger Woods. There's a backstory to this artist that most people don't know. And it starts in a place called Laverne, Oklahoma. 1961. Less than 1,900 people lived there then, even fewer today. It is truly a one-horse town. A 14-year-old boy named Jimmy, the son of a preacher and his wife. Jimmy was working on a tractor on a field when a song came on the transistor radio. This song.
There is someone walking behind you. Turn around, look at me.
The song was called Turn Around, Look at Me. It was recorded by a young singer named Campbell. Jimmy on the tractor plow was so excited when he heard the song, he drove the tractor into a ditch. It was, he said, the most beautiful song I ever heard. Well, that night, and for the next several years, this Jimmy would dream and pray. He'd say, "Dear Lord, if it'll be your will, one day would you help me write a song half as good as Turn Around, Look at Me?" And by the way, could I be fortunate enough to have Mr. Campbell record one of my songs? Ladies and gentlemen, 6 years later, before he was 20 years old, Jimmy had an old song he wrote called By the Time I Get to Phoenix. He got the song to Glenn Campbell. The song was one of the most recorded songs in 50 years. It won a Grammy, and that Jimmy, of course, was Jimmy Webb, who first met Glenn at the Grammys that night. And for the most of the next 4 decades, Jimmy Webb and his new friend Glenn Campbell became an international sensation. Webb wrote numerous #1 hits, including MacArthur Park, Up, Up and Away, Galveston. And I tell this story, of course, because as Jimmy Webb will attest, prayers and dreams and hopes and hard work can certainly pay off. And because, as you all know, we lost Glenn Campbell last year, Jimmy Webb's, I think, greatest song ever is a song I certainly want to dedicate to the memory of my favorite singer of all time, and it's my favorite song of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, here is Wichita Life.
I am the lineman for the county, and I drive the main road, searching in the sun for another overload. I hear you singing through the wire, I can hear it through the wire. And the Wichita Lightning is still on the line. You know I need a small vacation, but it don't look like rain. And if it snows down the stretch, that's I won't ever stand the pain. And I want you more than need you, and I need you for all time. And the Wichita Lightning is still on the line.
what to say. Now I am found out today about all the words that slipped away. There's always a chance, a tiny spark remains. Time turned into flame. Love can burn again. I know you know. Whenever you call me, I'll be there. Whenever you want me, I'll be there. Whenever you need me, I'll be there. I'll be around. Whenever you call me, I'll be there. Whenever you call me, I'll be there. Whenever you want me, I'll be there. If I have to call you, I'll be there. I'll be around. That's I'll be around for the new record. Hi, everybody. We're talking about Ohio, Youngstown, Ohio, and Cleveland, Ohio, and Warren, Ohio, on the shores of Old Lake Erie. Sits a town of mostly cheery Buckeye folks who think that life is sweet. But before I draw attention to the town that I will mention, here's a little place that can't be beat. Great for business or vacation, in the heart of this great nation, Warren's got a treat for every taste. Small town charm and all the arts, whatever warms your little hearts, and all without anxiety or haste. Yeah, we've got so much in Warren that is truly worth exploring, like our Trumbull County seat at Courthouse Square. And it really is exciting that our town's electric lighting was the first day using street lights anywhere. Now before you say it's boring, let me stipulate that Warren has a host of lively venues to have fun. Here at Packard Music Hall, you can have yourself a ball, and our amphitheater's made for everyone. Since we're in the neighborhood, I think it might be kind of good to send a shout to Youngstown. It's our thing. Home of Ray Boom Boom Mancini. No one dared to call him Weenie, and his Youngstown homies treat him like a king. Now let's focus on another, Warren's vastly bigger brother. I refer, of course, by Cleveland to the lake. And I bet you all were unaware of famous folks who came from there in entertainment, and it's not fake. And there's Tim Conway, Deborah Winger, old Bob Hope could fire a zinger, and Paul Newman earned some Oscars in his day. Old Mike Douglas and Phil Donahue, between them, well, they had a few successes in a TV kind of way. Hank Mancini wrote a tune about a river and the moon, and perhaps the name Tom Hanks you might have heard. And The Price is Right, Drew Carey. Yeah, it's really kind of scary how much mega talent Cleveland has. My word! You might be surprised to know that Warren has a right to crow. The great Paul Warfield came from our fair town. The Browner Boys and Corey Stringer, and that great musician-singer, Dave Grohl. He can really lay it down. When you find yourself in Warren and your stomach is imploring you to find a great location to chow down, there is no better place for luncheon than the hot dog shop. Get munchin'. It's a landmark institution here in town. Here's some Warren information about a hero of our nation. Old Neil Armstrong spent some time here as a lad. Back in 1936, little Neil would get his kicks on his first flight in an airplane with his dad. When you finish up your yoga, go check out the Saratoga. They've been feeding folks a century or more. And if pizza is your passion, you can get your teeth a gnashing at the Sunrise Inn. You've got a treated store. At the risk of being catty, don't waste time in Cincinnati, when in this town you got everything you need. And when things in town get crazy, you can kick back and don't be lazy, because we love it here in Warren. Yes, indeed.
Stewart came on my show. And I had him on in the early 90s. He was getting up there in age, and there he is. What a thrill that was. And I always loved him as George Bailey. There was something about him as George Bailey. You agree? I think he was George Bailey. But I did this the other day. I said, God, life has changed so much all over the world, but here too, in the country. What would it be like if George Bailey, Jimmy Stewart, went back to Bedford Falls now? It might sound like this. This Jimmy Stewart, and this is called It Was a Wonderful Life. I went down the block to the 5 and dime store, and a guy out in front said they don't exist anymore. I walked a bit further to buy something at Sears, and they said there wasn't one there for going on years. So I decided maybe I'd go buy a book. But when I asked where the shop was, they gave me a strange look. There were no yellow pages, nor Encyclopedia Britannica, nor wristwatch repair, nor film for my camera. No pay phones to call, no handwritten letters. Some kid on the street said something called an email was better. There were no movie shows to go to, just something called a Cineplex, and no romantic love stories. Everything was about sex. I looked for Howard Johnson's to get an ice cream, and there weren't any. It was like a bad dream, where there once were folks on the street nice to meet. Now, if you hear from them at all, it comes in a tweet. Now, newspapers and radio, even the video store, they just went away. Never more. So now I wonder what became of my past. I mean, what's really left that really does last? So I called my old sweetheart, Mary, on a thing called an iPhone, and I saw a picture of her and the time and her home, and I got the weather report and all the ball scores, and a woman named Siri did all of my chores. I'm really glad I lived when I did, when it was great to be a grown-up or even a kid. So I'll just sign off as Jimmy Stewart, you see. Though there's a real good chance you might not even know me. But that's okay. I won't shed a tear, because it's your life now. So have a great year. And as we are just a few weeks, 6 weeks away from Christmas, I remember a friend of mine, Josh Groban, who was a fantastic singer. He did a fabulous piece on a record called Noel that saluted our men and women in service in Afghanistan, Iraq, all over the world, really. And this is a song dedicated to them.
This is Captain Patrick Hawken, and I want to wish a very Merry Christmas to my family in Tennessee and to my beautiful girlfriend in California. I miss you all, and I'll be home soon.
My name is Specialist Brooke Frisk, and I'm in Baghdad, Iraq. I would like to wish all my family and friends in Georgia and Wisconsin a very Merry Christmas. I'm really going to miss spending the holiday.
I'll see you guys real soon. Love you guys. Bye.
I'm dreaming tonight of a place that I love even more than I usually do. And I know that it's far, it's such a long way back. I promise you I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. We'll have snow and mistletoe. We'll have presents under the tree. Christmas Eve will find you with a love like
my family and friends back in Richmond, Virginia. Merry Christmas, and I want to send out a Merry Christmas.
I'd like to wish my family a very Merry Christmas in St. Louis, Missouri, especially my daughter Madison, who will be 4 this Christmas. I'm going to miss opening up presents with her and watching her face and seeing her face on Christmas morning and watching her, experience all the new experiences that Christmas brings.
Christmas Eve will find you with a love light gleam. I'll be home for Christmas. If only in my dream. If only in my
Hi, Daddy. Mommy, Bella, and I are wrapping presents to put under the tree, and we saved one especially for you. We miss you a lot, and we hope that you can come home soon. Merry Christmas.
Come home soon. God bless America. My very first thrill ever in my career was back in my Miami days. This is my first ever interview in my life on TV. By the way, I could not Photoshop this hair. This is real. Muhammad Ali, day one. Now, the reason I bring this photo up, and by the way, that's his daughter, Layla Ali, he's holding, who would eventually become a heavyweight champion for women in boxing, is because 35 years later, almost 40 years later, I had a chance to revisit Ali, and I met him many times over the years, for an event for Parkinson's. And because of people, certainly not me, but people like Josh Groban, people like Reba McEntire, David Foster, and others, but mostly because of this guy, we raised $6 million in 20 minutes for Parkinson's research. And that's a big thrill for me. I want to tell you a true story that happened that very week of that first photograph you saw. I took my camera crew, I was working at the ABC affiliate in Miami, and I took my camera crew to South Beach, Florida, to an old nursing home, an old age nursing home. People were well into their 90s, some into their hundreds, with Ali. And Ali loved elderly people. He always did. He loved little kids and elderly people. So Ali had just beaten Joe Frazier to win the heavyweight champion, the Thrill in Manila, that fight. He comes full of bombast, expecting everyone to make a big deal out of him. And he goes, I am the greatest, I'm the fastest, can nobody with me, what is my name? No reaction. There was an elderly Jewish lady in the front, she said, aren't you Clay? Oh God, that's all we knew. True. So Ali's, he's shaking it off, and he's bouncing around. I'm great, I'm so great, I'm fast. He goes in the other room. I am, and he sees there's no one in this room except an elderly black man in a wheelchair. Man was looking straight out at a bay window, I'll never forget it. And Ali goes, hey, old man, what's my name? No reaction. Ali tries again. Hey, old man, do you know who I am? Nothing, he looked straight ahead. I was told later this man was 98 years old. Couldn't hear, didn't see very well, hadn't much to eat, but he more or less shut it down. So Ali gets that, and there's 6 members of his entourage. They start walking away. And while he's doing that, I see this remarkable thing happen. I see this old man, like a light bulb went off in his head, take this wheelchair and turn it towards Ali. He's 98. And he speaks, first haltingly, but then with more conviction. Hey. What? I say, hey. Hey what? Hey what? Hey,
know who you are.
You know who I am.
Yes, I do. I'm 98 years old, but I know the champ. I waited my whole life to meet the champ. And here I am, 98 years old. Everybody in my family did, but my dream come true because I met the champ. You can't do no bad to nothing. Everybody know that the champ is good for everybody. And something else, you are the greatest of all time.
When I tell you, everybody in this room had tears in their eyes, including Ali. So Ali decides he's going to walk back to this guy. Takes a knee. You right. I am the champ. Now I want you to tell everybody in this room, what is my name? Old man looked up and said,
Joe Louis.
Everybody in Ali's entourage ran to this old man. They started to correct him. Hey, old man, don't you know that ain't you? And Ali stopped, what are you doing? But he said your name. I know what he said, I could hear. You come over here for a second. I walked towards it and I could hear this. He looked at these 6 members whose only job is to make Ali feel good. And he said this, how dare you contradict a corrected old man? Especially 98 years old. A man will lose all his children and his family, everybody he knew. Maybe he may not be great to you, but he's good to me. Because he tried to put food on the table for his children. Somewhere, sometime. Maybe in his whole life, the only dream he ever wanted is to meet the champ. In his mind, the only champ that ever mattered was Joe Louis. His dream came true tonight, fellas. And you know why? Then he said, because tonight, I'm Joe Louis. That was it. That was the greatest moment I can remember. I still look back at this man. He wasn't the most popular guy all the time in his career, but eventually people got it. He was standing up for his own self-dignity, and he was uplifting other people. Ladies and gentlemen, the definition of a champion is not how much money you have, how much you've accomplished, or how many friends you have. A champ's defined by how a human being uplifts another human being. That's it. Uplift somebody. Uplift somebody wherever you might be. Ali did all the time. And Arthur Ashe, who we lost a few years ago too, said, what you earn makes you a living. What you give makes you a life. And a man who preceded Arthur Ashe by some 50 years, the great George Washington Carver, said it this way, how far all of you go in life depends on your ability to be tender with the young and compassionate with the aged, tolerant of the weak, strong, for those who strive. Because someday in your life, you will have been all of those things. That's what Ali stood for. He was strong, he was weak, he strove, but he uplifted people. That's why he is still the greatest of all time. In 1969, there was a ball player who played for the San Diego Padres. He's a pretty good player, but not a spectacular player. His name was Nate Colbert. Now, Nate Colbert was a veteran. He struggled here and there, but he had a couple of good years, but never anything special. He was playing a doubleheader in Atlanta in July of 1969. The first time at bat, he hits a home run. Second time at bat, he doubles to right field. Third time at bat, another home run. Fourth time at bat, another home run. This guy had the career day of his life. Couldn't believe it. Now, this is a doubleheader, and he's in Atlanta on the road. Second game of the doubleheader starts. They introduce his name.
Number 9, Nate Colbert.
Folks, the place went berserk. They started cheering. They started stomping. They had people with tears in their eyes. They had people holding their children aloft. People were jumping up and down to such a point that Nate Colbert couldn't get up and hit. He was overcome with emotion. So he can't hit. He's bent over, and the guy who's on deck walks up and says, Nate, what's your problem? Get up there and hit. He says, get up there and hit. Listen to this crowd. The crowd's still going nuts. They're cheering and stomping, and people are going out of their minds. He says, I just had the career day of my life. I had 3 home runs and a double on the road in Atlanta, and listen to this crowd. They are saying, we love you, Nate. No one will ever have a better day than you. He says, the guy was sitting next to him, he goes, what are you talking about? Would you take a look at the scoreboard? He looks up at the scoreboard and says, congratulations, we've landed a man on the moon. Remember your humility. I've had a wonderful time here tonight, and I hope you have too. I really thank you. I really love this. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a difference between success and happiness. And I really do think it's stark and distinctive. Success is getting what you want. But happiness, which is far more elusive, is wanting what you've got. Remember that. I know a lot of successful people who aren't happy, but I also know people who strive to be happy with what they have in their lives, and I hope that all of it happens for you. Both happiness, success, all of it. This song then, before we say goodnight, is dedicated to those who endure life and celebrate life, because no matter how hard life could be, that's life. I say that's life.
That's what people say. You flying high in April, you get dumped on in May. I know I'm never gonna change my tune. When I'm flying high in June, I say that's life. Funny as it seems, sometimes people get their kicks, just banging on your dreams. But don't you ever, never let it get you down. Don't go down, yeah. 'Cause this whole world keeps spinning around. 'Cause I'm a hitter, a killer, a lover, a sinner, a fool and a king. I've been up and down and over and around, and I know one thing. Every time I think I've gotten hacked in my face, I get my mama in the ring, and I get on your case, and she's got a shoe. I say that's life. I can't deny it. Sometimes I wanna fight, but you know my heart shouldn't try it. And if you didn't think it was worth a try, you just get up in the air and fly. 'Cause I have been slapped and smacked and slammed and whacked. I've been bit by a horse. I've been up and down and over and out. And I know, of course, every time I get somebody in my face, I get myself up and get back in the ring. Yeah, I say that's life. Whoa, I can't deny it. Sometimes I wanna play, but you know my daddy won't try it. And if you didn't think it would bring me down, don't bring that down. You pick yourself up. Come on, get off your butt. Pick yourself up and say, hey, that's life. Oh, bye, bye. Warren. Thank you so much.